Well, good evening. It's Sunday night, and as usual, it's time for me to come out of hiding and talk about where we were last week and where we're going. And let me just first start off with last week's work. And first thing I want to do is thank everybody who went ahead and dug up even more reading material on the antitrust issues. This, as you can see, is it's pretty important stuff. It talks a lot about the business organization of how sport, particularly major team sport, is operated. And there are all sorts of interesting situations that can come up, whether it go from, such as the case I presented, clothing deals, TV deals. You can see how this reaches off into labor organization and the whole idea of monopoly, which we know is not a really acceptable concept in many people's minds. And when we look at it a little later in the course too, we're going to look at it from the other side, where the issue is called monopsony, and that's for the single seller. Our pro sports unions, single sellers. So, you know, I hope everybody didn't find the legalism too dry this week, and it doesn't look like you did. It produced some very good discussion, and in particular, can't say enough as how much I really appreciate all of those of you who went out and dug up some more stuff. That just shows that you guys are within the spirit of what we're trying to do and how we're trying to learn from each other, and I cannot say enough good things about that. Okay, now we're going to come up on week 4, which is actually a little bit more fun than the other weeks, because, in my opinion at least, because we get into one of my favorite issues when we start talking about competitive balance. And what does competitive balance mean in the purposes of this course? Well, usually when we think of competitive balance, we think about the on-field. And we're going to start with that, so maybe, you know, keep in mind, this might be a little bit tough to keep that fan hat off, like I keep saying. But let's look at things this week definitely through the business and economic lens. But the on-field stuff is going to become important. And the questions I really want us to look at this week, when you do the reading, look at some of the videos, look at some of the articles, we're going to look at, is competitive balance on the field? Does it contribute to competitive balance off the field? Does it contribute to a healthy league? Does it contribute to an economically healthy team? Or a sport completely doesn't even have to be a team sport or a league. It could be an individual sport like golf. Is the balance between the competitors, between the teams, between the athletes, the chance of any given team being able to win any game, how does that affect the economics and the realities of the business end? I think you're going to find it pretty interesting, and I think we're all going to have some definitive opinions on this. Look, for instance, one of the articles I'm asking everybody to read, and even though it's from that notoriously unreliable, but in this case pretty good source, Wikipedia, because it explains it pretty well, I'm going to ask you to look at how in much of international soccer, professional leagues maintain competitive balance through the system of promotion and relegation. Can you imagine if we tried that system, after you've read the article and understand it, if we tried that system in, say, Major League Baseball, or between the NBA and the D-League? Be kind of interesting to see what goes on. In America, what we've done traditionally, you use the mechanism of the reverse order draft. You know, the team that finishes last gets to pick first amongst the incoming talent. And we've used that as a way to maintain competitive balance. Well, is that the way to go? I'm not actually sure. I'm not sure that that's the only way to go. There's some pretty strong opinions both ways. It has worked for the most part fairly well, but we see an element of risk come in. We see all sorts of ideas that you're going to have to consider from the business side. Now, we know from the fan side, we all want our teams to get the best player. We want competitive balance. For me, take a look at the end of the day here, and at the end of this NFL weekend, with the exception of my beloved New York Giants, how many teams are 1-1? It's right there. The majority teams are 1-1, right? The 0-2s are a few. The 2-0s are going to be a few. They're 1-1. Is this going to continue through the season? Is this healthy for the league? Is this the way the business wants to run? Is this the way the business should run? These kind of things are what I want us to be looking at. So I do think we'll have some fun. So read the discussion question carefully. Read it for the content of what we want to be in there. And in the end of the week, I'm going to try to come up, and if not, or it'll be late in the week, I'm going to try to introduce the midterm exercise, okay? Just to give you a little hint, in this course, I do not do the midterm at the end of the 4th week. I do it at the end of the 5th week, okay? Because it will allow you to do some things that will also help you build into the final. So all I can tell you right now, and all I will tell you right now, is that it will be a written exercise, but it's one I've tried out several times, and actually had the luxury of, by happy accident, a student in the on-campus version of this class a couple of semesters ago, a post-university baseball player, actually sat on a transcontinental flight, sat next to the owner of a major league franchise, and I won't tell you in what sport, but a top-level franchise, and got to talking to the gentleman and mentioned what your midterm assignment was, and mentioned the question, and the owner, the team owner, actually told our student, they said, hey, that was a really good question you got asked, and there is no right answer. Here's the answer I would give. So I'm going to hold out on you. We'll keep you in suspense a little bit as that goes forward. But that is, our midterm has the indirect endorsement of a major league owner. So I think that's kind of a fun thing. Okay, if there are any questions, obviously, I encourage you to get a hold of me right away. I think things have been going pretty well. I've enjoyed reading your discussions. I, as usual, am going to try to get a little bit more demanding each week. As I put in a couple of posts, why do I turn into your high school English teacher? Well, it's to help you communicate. If I can help you communicate in both spoken word, written word, boy, that's going to help you get a leg up in the job market and distinguish yourself from your competition. Just like I want to break down the competitive balance, okay? I don't want you guys to be balanced. I want you guys to stand out. The leagues may want everybody else to be competitively balanced. That's not going to be us, okay? Keep up the good work. Ask any questions you have. Hope you have some more fun with this week's assignment. And we'll see you maybe towards the end of the week. Thank you.